Several weeks later, Harry Potter packed his things into his trunk and loaded everything into the back of Lee's van. Harry had no idea that within a few hours, he was about to leave behind everything he knew and attend Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. To be honest, Harry wasn't looking forward to attending Hogwarts, but he had no choice. Albus Dumbledore was still in charge of the school, and he was responsible for Patrick Harvey being forced to live with the Dursleys, where Patrick's life was a huge mess. Harry knew that he had to stop Dumbledore before he damaged another child. But he wasn't going there alone, as his cousin Dudley Dursley and two orphans named Jonathan Cavanaugh and Agnes Parker were also going to Hogwarts with him. While Dudley was excited about going to Hogwarts, Jonathan was nervous. He had heard some not-so-nice things about the school, and he knew that as a Trickenberg, he shouldn't trust Dumbledore. But Agnes wasn't ready to give up the Christian life she had planned for herself, as she was determined to remain faithful to her beliefs no matter what she encountered. Yet, how this story progresses is different from what J.K. Rowling had previously written. When the children reached the Hogwarts Express, Jonathan and Agnes boarded the first train car they saw. Harry was about to follow Agnes when Dudley said, "Hey Harry, let's get in this car." Harry followed Dudley and Nicholas to the next car. Jonathan was already there, and he was talking to a boy and a girl. Jonathan saw them and said, "Harry, Dudley, I was beginning to wonder if I should get out of the car and come find you. Anyway, this is Philip Dennison and Eleanor Barlow, they are going to Hogwarts like us." "I see," Harry said as his eyes fell on Philip and Eleanor. Philip looked at him and said, "Aren't you Harry Potter?" He was tall, with brown skin, brown eyes and brown hair. He wore a t-shirt and jeans, as most of the kids Harry saw at the train station were wearing. Harry nodded and smiled. He could tell that Philip and Eleanor were excited to meet him. "Well, of course I am Harry Potter," said Harry. "Who else would I be?" "Forgive me, I never heard of you until now," said Eleanor. She was short, had china-white skin, brown eyes, and long red hair. She wore a grey loose top with medium-length sleeves, green trousers, and magenta shoes. "I hear that you're attending Hogwarts this year." "I am," said Harry. "And what about you?" "Well," said Eleanor, "I'm one of the youngest children in my family, and we moved here from America." "What part of America did you come from?" said Jonathan. "St. Francisville, Florida," said Eleanor. "You're from Florida," said Harry. "Why'd you leave?" asked Dudley. "My family left because of my brother, Chauncey," said Eleanor. "He was mentally disabled, and my parents refused to put him in an institution, as required by city law. So, my family came here so we could raise him without any interference." To Philip, she said, "What's your story?" Philip said, "Well, I was also born in America, but my parents moved here because they got new jobs in London." "What part?" said Dudley. "Montgomery, Alabama," said Philip. "I feel sorry for you," said Dudley, but Harry gripped his arm. "Don't mind Dudley," said Harry. "Sometimes he thinks off the top of his head and says things without thinking." "Yeah, right," Dudley shot back. "Well, my parents are dead. So it's just me and my brother Adrian," said Jonathan. "Do either of you have siblings?" Dudley said, "Well, I was an only child, but Agnes Parker and Patrick Harvey live with me." "As for me, I'm adopted," said Harry. "I have my parents and siblings Robbie, Ginger, Twyla, Louise, Felix, David and Molly." To Philip, he said, "What about you? Do you have any siblings?" Philip said, "I don't have any brothers or sisters. My parents both came from large families, and they refused to have a second child after I was born." Eleanor sighed, saying, "Besides my brother Chauncey, I have Simon, Isaiah, Eleazar, Thaddeus, Prudence, Felicity, the twins Zacchaeus and Zipporah, the triplets Tabitha, James, and Mercy, Jesse, and then of course, there's me, my younger sister's Verity and Modesty, and my youngest brother Noah. How does your mother manage to keep up with you all? Asked Jonathan. Especially with so many of you living at home. Don't ask, said Eleanor. You don't want to know. Jonathan gave a knowing smile. Eleanor shook her head and laughed. Let's just say she's got plenty of practice, she said. Indeed, said Harry. Anyway, what's your opinion about Albus Dumbledore, based on some rumors about him out there? Well, I've heard that Dumbledore isn't exactly a man of honor, if that's the case, said Philip. He has done some questionable things in the past, said Harry, but I'm still holding out hope that he can at least be a good teacher. I hope so, said Jonathan. I hate to be associated with a man who does bad things to innocent children in the name of creating a hero. Yeah, and that too, said Harry. During the time that the Hogwarts Express was heading towards the school, McGonagall and Dumbledore were in the Great Hall with the other teachers, as they were preparing for the students to arrive. McGonagall said to him, Now remember, Albus, Alexander Ulrich is coming to Hogwarts, and he's going to have questions about his grandparents' deaths. Him, and several others, said Dumbledore. And is it any concern to you that a large number of the incoming students are 10 years old, said McGonagall. I wouldn't know, unless they were asked to come here for a good reason, said Dumbledore. We already have Stacy and Gabriel Snape, plus Juliana, Joanna, and Jamelyn Black are already here. Amber and Willa have attended Hogwarts when they were 7 and 8 years old. What will a few 10-year-olds do to our school that they won't do when they're 11 years old? I'm not sure, said McGonagall, but the ministry and the school governors will hear of this. There's no way Lucius Malfoy will allow this to go unnoticed, especially where his son Draco is concerned. Dumbledore frowned, saying, And I recall a letter addressed to you concerning Agnes Parker. What's that about, I wonder? Yes, I did receive a letter from Agnes, said McGonagall as they watched Severus Snape staring at them with a raised eyebrow. I have my reasons to believe that the girl could be magic as well. How else should I explain the death of Shane Blackwell, in that car fire, and the outing of Abigail Beaufort's cousin Bailey Pawson as a child abuser? If you ask me, I will say that Agnes Parker is magic for a reason, said Snape. There's no other excuse for why she decided to come to Hogwarts. As the Beaufort family was Hayden Pierce's foster family and the boy was removed from them, I'm sure that she might want some answers about that. And she might want answers about why her parents are dead, said Dumbledore. For the last 10 years, the Ministry has refused to investigate the deaths of Adeline and Toby Parker, which has angered many people. Plus, with the sudden influx of Muggle-born children and the declining population of pureblood children, I'm sure that the Ministry will issue an order for the pureblood families to start having more children. Is that legal? Said Snape. I'm sure very few pureblood women would be happy to hear that, said McGonagall. It matters not what they want, said Dumbledore. It seems that these days, the Ministry cares about keeping the wizarding community population in line. And I'm sure someone will raise a stink about that and possibly go rogue, said Snape. And if that happens, Muggles will be aware of the magical world, just as our world became aware of the northern fairies living in Etteldheim. And your late wife and her family were considered Etteldheimian royalty, said McGonagall. Indeed, said Severus. But I hear that Harry Potter will be among those who are coming to Hogwarts, and from the looks of it, he's not going down the path that you've marked for him. And why not? Said Dumbledore. You heard me, said Snape. Harry is living with Lily's brother Carlisle, and you and I both know that he shares Lily's opinion about magic. I'm sure that Carlisle has taught the boy that magic is something you should use only for educational purposes. Are you still angry with Lily for refusing to be your friend? Amber said as she and Willa came into the room. When last I remembered, She blamed you for everything that happened to Irene Ulrich when Remus Lupin got her pregnant with Jody, and she ended up losing him. You sided with Irene and tried to get Remus expelled. And I'm sure Lily didn't want anything to do with you anymore, because she was going out with James when that happened, said Willa. And her sister by proxy wouldn't want you near her precious nephew. I see, Snape said as he stormed away from the hall. He knew that for better or worse, Harry Potter was coming to Hogwarts. As far as he knew, Harry could be as troublesome as James or superficial as Lily. He could use his status as the boy who lived to cause trouble and break school rules. There was no way he was about to let that happen. He said to Phileas Flitwick, Harry Potter is on his way here, and it's up to you and me to make sure that he doesn't go to Gryffindor. Isn't that what Albus wants? Said Flitwick. Yes, said Severus. Either he goes into Slytherin or Ravenclaw. And if that doesn't work, we could ask Pomona Sprout if she's willing to let him into Hufflepuff. Are you sure she would allow that? Said Flitwick. She must, if we can't get to him, said Snape. I'm not going to sit here and allow another James Potter to roam through the halls of this distinguished school getting into trouble and receiving praise from Dumbledore. We have to get Harry into a house where his talents can be put to good use instead of being ignored and squandered. Are you suggesting that you and I break rank and keep Harry away from Albus? Said Flitwick. Does it look like we have a choice? Said Snape. Harry Potter cannot be used to defeat the Dark Lord, not even if he's the world's only hope. That is why I must do this. But can you defeat him? Said Flitwick. You're his best spy. And it's always the best spies who do the backstabbing, said Snape. Like it or not, we don't have another choice. Either we stop Dumbledore from forcing Harry into this senseless fight, or we do nothing. And I know we can't afford to do nothing. Little did they know that Hagrid was standing in the hallway listening to them. He grew worried, knowing that Harry could be in serious danger. He couldn't help but wonder if it was wise to bring Harry Potter to Hogwarts. When the train reached the school, Harry couldn't help but notice that 350 people were standing at the train station. He saw Agnes talking to one of the girls and Dudley and Jonathan were talking to several other students. It had to be his luck that one of them almost knocked Harry over. Harry turned to the boy and said, do you mind? Sorry, said the boy. I'm Duncan Snyder, he said. Harry Potter, said Harry. Harry Potter. As in The Harry Potter, said Duncan. Not so loud, said Harry. I don't like it when people go crazy whenever I tell them who I am. Just then, the girl Agnes was talking came to where Harry and Duncan were. She said, I can't believe you're actually here at Hogwarts, Harry Potter. And your name is? Harry said. Her name is Candace Thorpe, said Duncan. Her family is among the richest in the wizarding world. Candace was about to say something when a voice rang out, Fur's years this way. It was Hagrid and he was calling everyone to the boats. Harry barely caught a glimpse of Agnes, as he boarded the boat that would take him across the lake and to Hogwarts. Harry, Dudley, Philip, Eleanor, Jonathan, Duncan, and Candace all climbed into a huge boat along with a group of students. As Hagrid led the boats across the lake, Harry said to Duncan, So it's your first year at Hogwarts. It is, said Duncan. But I never imagined that you'd be coming to Hogwarts, Harry. Not when there are about 5 other magical schools that would gladly take you in, said Candace. Harry nodded, wondering if he had picked the wrong day to come to Hogwarts. All day long, he had to face a barrage of students fawning over him, as if he was a celebrity, and not just another Hogwarts student. Harry was particularly sensitive about that, if nothing else. He only wanted to be a normal student like everyone else, yet this was not to be. Harry, are you okay? Said Dudley. I think so, said Harry. To be honest, I want all of this to stop right now. The fame, the fans, the praise. I'm not special to begin with, and I don't know how to handle all this attention. I just want to live a normal life, without the added pressure of being in the spotlight. That's what I was afraid of, Nicholas said as he saw Harry getting out of the boat. It appears that Albus Dumbledore's plot to manipulate you is getting more intense. Now we have to step it up and make sure that the old man won't be forcing you into Gryffindor. I hope not, said Harry. How will we do that? I'm sure you'll figure something out, said Nicholas. You always do. When they arrived at the school, Professor McGonagall came out and greeted them. Welcome to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, she said. I am Professor McGonagall, your deputy headmistress, as well as your transfiguration teacher. When we arrive at the Great Hall, you will be sorted into your respective houses. Now follow me. McGonagall led the children into the Great Hall. There were many wizards present, including teachers, students and staff. They all cheered as they saw the kids. Harry saw that many of them were staring at him. He assumed that everyone knew that he was indeed Harry Potter, the boy who lived. But he left it alone, he would deal with that later. Right now, there were other things to take care of. Such as which house he would be placed in. McGonagall picked up the sorting hat and said, "When I call your name, please take the sorting hat and go to the house to which you are assigned." Agnes was called first. She was placed in Gryffindor. Dudley was sorted into Hufflepuff. Jonathan was also sorted into Hufflepuff. As each child was sorted into one of the 4 houses of Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin, Harry wondered if any of them would accept him for who he truly was. He knew that some of them would be his true friends, while others would only like him for his fame. He watched as Duncan, Candace, Eleanor, and Philip were sent to Ravenclaw, while a shy boy named Connor Matheson was placed in Hufflepuff. Harry Potter. Just then, the sound of his name sent Harry hurtling back to reality. Everyone was looking at him. Harry approached the stool warily, just as he approached Uncle Carlisle and Aunt Mary when they had told him the truth about him living with the Evans family when he was 10 years old. He sat down, and the hat was placed on his head. The hat said, "You're the famous son of James and Lily Potter. Wonderful thing you did defeating that Dark Lord. Alas, you have lived with your relatives, one of whom is a Muggle, and the other who made an unwise decision by leaving the wizarding world." Harry frowned. The hat said, "However, I believe that you'll do fine in Slytherin." Harry shook his head. "No, thank you. I won't go into Slytherin." Everyone in Slytherin was shocked. "No," said the hat. "What about Gryffindor?" "I don't think I can go into Gryffindor," said Harry. The Gryffindors were also shocked. Dumbledore frowned and glared at the hat in anger. "You don't want to go into Slytherin, and you don't want to go into Gryffindor," said the hat. "But you say there is a third choice." "There's always a third choice," said Harry. "Very well," said the hat. Ravenclaw. Harry stood up and walked over to the Ravenclaw table amidst cheers from the school, except for Gryffindor and Slytherin. They weren't too happy about this. Harry had chosen Ravenclaw over them. But Harry didn't care, as he was busy shaking hands with Professor Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts, and Professor Flitwick, the head of Ravenclaw House. He was also sitting with his new friends. Draco Malfoy sighed and said, "So, Harry Potter would rather be a Ravenclaw." "A Ravenclaw? God help us all," muttered Professor Snape. "Maybe it's for the best, Severus," Amber said as she sat beside him. "I believe Ravenclaws can achieve great things." "So can Hufflepuffs," said Willa. "Remember, I was once one." Dumbledore sighed and let Harry have his moment. But he did have plans to make sure that Harry would end up in Gryffindor. He wasn't about to let his golden boy become a Ravenclaw.